Good evening to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack here. Saturday evening now, the 5th day of October 2024. Didn't think that I'd be doing two very serious updates. Hopefully they're all serious, but this one has a lot of the magnitude of the seriousness of it cannot be understated. We've got a major hurricane forecast now. Milton forecast to be a major hurricane, and to make landfall. I mean, this is, if the track verifies, this will be one of the worst things that we have seen in modern history. The dreaded Tampa Bay potential landfall here is now officially in the cards. And so we need to talk about the problems that could happen and that could create societal ripples that we are already seeing in the wake of Helene. So this is a very, very serious update. We're going to go over impacts, what to expect, and then from my experience doing this for 30 years, what I predict could happen here, and I hope I end up being wrong, because this is one of those ones where you say, we've heard about it, it's possible, all the ones that have gone by and missed and whatever, and now here we are. As we get to midweek, we could be facing one of the worst things that we have seen in the realm of hurricanes in modern United States history. And I don't know if there's a way out. I really don't. And I'll explain as I go forward through this. All right, so this is very serious Mark here with you. No joking around today at all. So what do we got? Satellite animation tells the story. Our tropical storm sitting down here in the southwest Gulf. Big area of convection just popped up with it. And we're going to see this thing organize and then scoot across and then maybe make landfall here in one of the worst areas that a hurricane can strike. And we're going to look at that in more detail in a moment. Not even going to worry about sea surface temperatures and anomalies and all of that. That's academic. That's baked in. That's already baked in. We know that that's going to be there. This huge energy source that we call the Gulf of Mexico, everything is there for this to become one of the worst things that we have seen in a long time, on the heels of one of the worst things that we have seen in a long time, and that would be Hurricane Helene. So looking at the track map, not to just completely ignore everything out here, but that's what we're going to do. Kirk and Leslie, been nice seeing you. We're going to focus on Milton right now because that is where we need to focus our attention. Couple of points to make. Reminder, a hurricane is not a little symbol or lines or dots on that line or the cone or whatever. That's not the hurricane. Those are just map representations so that us mere mortals, us human beings, can visualize the track. The hurricane, would-be hurricane, it's a tropical storm right now, just a reminder, is much bigger than that, and the effects are going to extend out over a larger area than these little dots and lines on the map. So that is very, very important for you to soak in and remember. A hurricane is not some symbol or graphic. It is much bigger than that. So that being said, let's check out some of the impacts here that the National Hurricane Center is already putting in to their little dashboard here. At least that's what I call it. Let's look at the key messages. First, Milton is forecast to quickly intensify. That's a key part right there. It's already doing it. While moving across the Gulf of Mexico and is expected to be at or near major hurricane strength when it reaches the west coast of Florida, the peninsula, midweek. And we'll look at that in more detail too. There's an increasing risk of life-threatening storm surge. I mean, that is not even, that's an understatement. The surge that could come from this will be nightmarish wherever it happens. And if it's the Tampa Bay area, it could be one of those worst-case scenarios. But we don't want to focus just on Tampa Bay. Even I need to be careful with that, all right? And then the other part, this third bullet point, third but not at all last, it's just third, okay? It's very important. Areas of heavy rainfall will impact portions of Florida Sunday and Monday, well ahead of Milton. We saw that up in parts of the Appalachians up here, ahead of Helene. We do not have any mountains like that in Florida. We do have some terrain and some elevation, especially up the central part of Florida and over in the Panhandle. You guys that live there, you know that. But all that heavy rain is going to make things difficult. Preparation evacuation, and it'll bring the risk of flash flooding, urban flooding, aerial flooding, along with minor to moderate river flooding. All of this ahead of Milton. Okay, so that's very, very important. Evacuations are going to commence. Lots of people are going to have to get out of the way of this thing, and the rain out in front of it is going to make that difficult. The potential for the rainfall is certainly significant. Several inches of rain that you see in the yellow, that is 4 inches plus. So anything from the yellow to the orange and red, 4 inches plus of rain affecting a huge area of Florida, even South Florida. And this too will change. Make no mistake, this will change as well. But the squall is coming in. Everything's just going to become harder because of this. Now, as of yet, we do not have the peak surge forecast on here because we do not have the hurricane yet, and the models, the slosh model they run, however the storm surge unit at the National Hurricane Center goes about putting that together, that's coming. We don't need to worry about it just yet, but that's coming. We're going to get an idea of the surge forecast numbers, and I want to prepare you, they are not going to be pleasant numbers. Okay, numbers, surge forecasts aren't supposed to be pleasant. I get it, but prepare to be floored when you see some of these numbers. In some cases, we could be talking about multiple stories of buildings, and the idea that this could be catastrophic, meaning that surge can come in and just bulldoze stuff, because in the surge there will be other buildings that have already come apart, and that'll all batter other stuff. The loss of life potential here is significant. Okay? We could get lucky, and this thing fizzles out, and the shear gets it, and, it's all for naught. But I wouldn't bet on that. All right? And hope, you can hope it all we want, but hope is not good planning. You cannot use hope alone as a planning tool. So the rain's going to make things harder. We're waiting on some surge forecasts. We will look at that more tomorrow. And then when I'm down in Florida, we'll look at it again on Monday. But I am very concerned about this. All of the people in emergency management are. Believe me, this has everyone's attention to the highest levels of the United States government. And absolutely, it's needed, because this could be bad. Very, very bad. And then I want you to look at what happens. Now, on one hand, we say, do not look at the skinny black line. Don't worry about it. That's the center track forecast. But on the other hand, it does tell us something very important. All right, so there's a little bit of contradiction here, even in what I'm saying. Don't worry about the black line. That's the track center, or these little symbols with 1s on them and 3s on them and so forth. But I want to point out one very important aspect that is baked into this forecast line between the dots, okay, the forecast positions. First, you notice this is forecast to be a Category 3, and that is important because it is a major hurricane at 115 miles per hour. Will it be higher than that? We'll have to wait and see. Don't worry about that. What you need to know is everywhere south of this line will have onshore flow the entire time that Milton is headed toward the coast. So in that sense, the center of the forecast cone, the track line, matters, because this is going to pile up the water ahead of itself all the time. And a perpendicular or near perpendicular strike is not ideal in the least. From the Keys all the way around to where this makes landfall and everything south of that, what I just drew in here, you're going to have significant storm surge. To the north of where the center comes in, the offshore flow will commence and the Gulf will be pushed away from land. So onshore here, offshore to the north. So in that regard, where this makes landfall does matter, mainly for people to the north. But are you going to gamble that you get lucky by about 5 or 10 miles in the Tampa Bay region, especially where it is very vulnerable, and that you say, yeah, I'm going to stay and just take my chances? There's a point you could wait long enough and most of the people will have evacuated and you could probably get out at the last few hours because you just need to get out of the way of that surge. But, I wouldn't risk it because the rainy, squally conditions could make things difficult, and all it takes is one wreck somewhere and you're stuck. But let's zoom in. This is the beauty of our interactive map. And again, this is why in this instance, the forecast track line is important, because if you drive the core of this hurricane, which could be, something like that, I don't know what it's going to look like, you're going to be driving those hurricane force winds right into Tampa Bay, right into Sarasota, right into Venice, Inglewood, and point south. Port Charlotte, you move this south just a little bit more and you drive that surge right into Port Charlotte. Unlike Ian and Idalia, but let's just look at Ian. Ian paralleled the coast and eventually made landfall down here near these islands, the Captiva, Sanibel Island area, and the eye, as Ian came in, went right over Port Charlotte. So the worst of the surge was caught down in here, Fort Myers Beach. That's different than this track coming in almost perpendicular, because everywhere south of there is going to catch that surge. But the worst of it is going to be in that right front quadrant. Just like this little part right here caught the worst of Ian, and we saw that just terrifying surge at Fort Myers Beach. The possibility that that could happen in here, and you drive a surge into Tampa unlike anything we have ever seen. Then this is going to go across and hit major population areas. The resorts, Walt Disney World, Universal, the water parks, the convention areas. This is absolutely setting up to be one of those ones that we look back and we say, this was the time, Saturday the 5th of October, and I said the same thing about Helene, where we're going to be talking about before Helene and life after Helene. And for lots of people in the Big Bend and up in Appalachia, that is exactly what has happened. Okay? And this could happen for a major population area. And the societal impacts here. And I want to address this because as a scientist, a geographer by degree, and I have meteorology training, I have social science training. That's the beauty of being a geographer, is kind of get a hand in everything. I see this. I go to conferences. I know we talk about this stuff. And part of geography is what's on top of the landscape. People, places, things. And we have to face the reality here. I absolutely hate talking politics. It's, right? But this could have implications on the election. If it is terribly bad, there could be people that are displaced. They have to leave. And it could start to, because the election's less than a month away. Or it's exactly a month. Well, it'll be less than a month away when this makes landfall. Those are the societal implications that I am talking about here. Beyond people's lives being upended, potentially ended if they don't leave, and millions of people without power. This is extremely serious. That's why I'm nearly shouting. All right? This is the one that worries me. These are the ones that sit here. We look at it as professionals that have done this for a long time, emergency manager friends of mine, going back to the dawn of my career, where we say, oh my, this could be the one. So Florida, you better be ready for this. You better be ready for the mental part of watching what happens when it is over. We could get lucky and it doesn't come in nearly as bad. And, Tampa, this is our worst nightmare. But anywhere south of here, and it could come up farther north. Sure, that's why we have the forecast cone. This is where, the center is usually at most of the time. It usually doesn't veer outside the cone. So yeah, I could make landfall over Cedar Key. That'd be horrible. Right? Like they need that. But then you'd have a huge surge in these areas. So it's going to matter where the center line comes ashore. And, we better hope it's not right through here. But, what do? You drag it south a little bit. You focus it more into Port Charlotte. Lots and lots of real estate out here. Trillions of dollars of it in harm's way. And this is going to affect all the way down to the Keys. And then we're going to have impacts on the east side of Florida. As this comes across, you're going to have those onshore winds over here. Huge, huge impact coming up. The footprint of this hurricane to be, Milton will be a hurricane, will resonate with us for a very, very long time. So we will look at the details of what to expect more. I'll do a YouTube live tomorrow morning, probably 9 o'clock in the morning, something like that. I'll publish it on the YouTube community chat thing. I'll put it on our Discord. I'll post it on Twitter. So we'll stay around 9 a.m. Eastern time. Then I'm going to hit the road tomorrow. As I'm going down, we're bringing everything we got, and then some. We're going to throw everything we have at this to capture it, document it, measure it, and show you what happens when possibly the nightmare scenario unfolds. And this will be important for historical documentation, for the science of it. We'll have wind sensors, pressure sensors, and all kinds of stuff to enhance what we've already done going back 20 years here with this project. All right? So, yes, follow, like, share on YouTube. This will be one of the times where I say, please do, because I hope I'm giving out some good, helpful information that will motivate people. You got to take this one seriously. If you haven't before and you dismiss them, you don't trust this, you don't trust that, I hope you trust me, because I've seen it with my own two eyes what happens when it goes bad. And this has the makings of that happening. We are also supported through Patreon. You can sign up through there and support our project as an investor and as a collaborator. It is terrific. What a wonderful community we have. Over 1,500 people from around the world. And we tie that all in with our HurricaneTrack site. And you get the access to all of the dashboard of camera technology and everything that we built together through this community. That is how we do it. So social media, it's got a very bad side, but it's also got a very positive side. And thanks to people like you, you start here watching on YouTube or elsewhere. And then again, you can support us with our community on Patreon. Just look for HurricaneTrack. It's easy. In the app, there's the link right there. And you can sign up and become a part of our community. And we can work together as we track this thing coming in. Because I'm telling you, I got a really, really bad feeling about this one. A lot of us do. I don't see an easy way out. I really don't. So this is one of those grim, Mark's very serious, like sitting down with the family, got to tell them some bad news kind of thing. We've all been there. You guys are part of that family out here in social media world and the hurricane world and the weather world. And I am talking to you. I'm not talking at you right now. All right, this is not for my benefit. This is for you. All right, we got to get through this. Next few days are going to be very stressful. So again, tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern time, let's book it. Do a YouTube live. We'll catch up, see what we know, get that storm surge information coming out, and then that'll be the update for tomorrow. It'll be the YouTube live. Then I'm going to hit the road. Got to get down there. We got to start working. We got a whole team of people that's going to be on the ground to show you what this thing does, and again to help the science and everything else. The whole reason we're here. All right, let me get this online for you. Thanks for tuning in. You know, it's just one of those times I got to be as real as I can be, because this one has the makings of being historic. From all of us at HurricaneTrack, I'm Mark Setta. Thank you for watching. I'll see you at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning.